There sure are some great things in life. Right guys? Buffalo wings? Oh, flippin' delicious, bro. Rainy weather on your day off from work.
Cozy as fuck.
Having more money in your bank account than you thought you did after a wild night out.
That is very much adequate.
But what is one thing that makes all this other stuff look like trash? Well, I'll tell you what, cutie. 2 words. Villain redemptions. Of all the tropes out there in the wide world of books, villain redemptions are one of my all-time favorite things. There's just nothing that quite hits the spot like seeing the baddie renounce their evil ways and take their place in the hero's crew. What's shaking, booktube? My name's Cam. Welcome back to another video. There are a bunch of tropes that I love, as I'm sure there are for you. But today's a bit different. Today I'm going to gush about one trope in particular.
The villain's redemption.
It's something that can be very difficult to pull off, or at least pull off in a satisfying way. But when you really nail the motivations and the transition from bad to good, it can strengthen your story in a way that nothing else really can. Don't believe me? Then don't watch the video. Now, there is one thing you'll know about villains if you involve yourself in the bookish social culture, and mind you, I'm not just talking about villain redemptions here, but villains in general. Villains make people horny as shit. If you include in your book a dashing, yet troubled and brooding villain, you better believe...
And ladies, be ovulating. Am I right, dog? Watch out for this cat.
There's something about a bad boy that just makes people randy, and I'm sure it has nothing to do with the obligatory scary sexy choking monologue that they always throw in there. Anyway, add to the thirst potion a redemption arc and boy oh boy, do you have yourself some grade A panty dropping literature, my fella. Yes sir.
Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir.
Now I can't say that I'm the biggest fan of Loki's flip-flopping redemption story, but what I can say is that I've stumbled across some fan art that would make poor Stan Lee roll in his damn grave. I'm going to mention the specific things I like most about this trope, of course, but there is a question I find myself asking. Why good? Why is it good? I think I have an easy answer to this, believe it or not. I think the reason villain redemptions hit the spot is because it would, or it should, include a fully thought out character arc for a role that would generally not see this. Think about it, you generally have 2 major roles in a story. The protagonist and the antagonist. Of course, you could also have side characters that can have major importance to the story, for example a mentor who brings the hero into the adventure, the love interest that motivates the hero to overcome obstacles, but the 2 major characters should be the hero and the villain, right? The hero will have a character arc throughout the story. Their goals and perspective will change. How they overcome challenges will change based on what they've learned or what they've achieved. This is all basic stuff. I know that. You know that. Moving on. When it comes to the villain or the big bad, we would normally go quite a bit of time without seeing them at all. This isn't their story after all. The mystery of the antagonist is a huge part of what makes them so dangerous, so time spent with them is often limited. What this sadly means is that we will rarely see them have any kind of character arc of their own. A villain's goal will usually remain the same from start to finish. It's this shift from the norm, this diversion of expectation, that makes the villain redemption so satisfying, at least for me. Like I said, that is sure as heck not the only reason, but it's maybe the biggest one. A villain with a character arc. Who knew?
Not me.
Another, perhaps more obvious reason villain redemptions are so satisfying is because the whole premise is built on an idea, a really sweet one. The idea that not all those who belong to the dark are truly lost. It's nice to think that despite the bad things that you, the reader, may have done or thought throughout your life, that you retain the ability to be a good person if you just make the right choices. This is a belief that I think we all share on at least some level. I also think it's necessary for society to believe that people can be redeemed. Otherwise, why should bad people change? If you don't believe someone can change, why should they? So there is a trope within this trope that I am particularly fond of. Fond of? Jesus Christ, I'm on the fast track to being a boomer, aren't I? That subtrope I'm referring to is the old friends. Simply put, the bad guy and the good guy were at some point friends or lovers. Sometimes you will see that mutual attraction shine through in banter, or perhaps that heart-stopping moment of hesitation just before the kill. Boy, do I love that shit. To skip the middleman and inject that shit directly into my fucking eyes. I want to show you a clip from a movie called X-Men 3: The Last Stand. Yeah, I know, the movie sucks, okay? I know, just trust me, okay? There is a very short but incredibly powerful scene in that movie that I still think about all the time. So it's just dialogue between the villain and his lackey, but it perfectly encapsulates the tumultuous and infamous relationship between Magneto and Charles Xavier. Spoiler alert for X-Men 3, by the way.
Would have killed the professor if he'd given me the chance.
Charles Xavier did more for mutants than you'll ever know. My single greatest regret is that he had to die for our dream to live.
So this is essentially all we see of how Magneto reacts to Charles's death, and I think it's perfect. Okay, sure, it would have been rad to see Eric crying at the professor's grave and renouncing his wicked ways, but in retrospect, I think that would have truly undermined Magneto as a character. Magneto loved Charles, he really did, but he believed in his mission, and he still does. To be fair, this one isn't as much a redemption as most others, but it's within the same realm, in my opinion. Despite their extreme difference in opinions, you can still feel an exchange of extreme respect between these two characters in every single scene that they share. I want to be clear, when I talk about villain redemptions, I'm not talking about characters that are only bad due to some form of mind control or higher power. Of course, it's okay if they have been manipulated or influenced by a bigger bad, but for a villain redemption to fall into that category in a genuine way, it has to be a matter of that character's actual will. They have to come to an understanding that their goals or priorities have changed. I believe that the most important element to making a villain redemption feel authentic is to ensure that their motivations are realistic and consistent. The reader doesn't need to agree with the character's motivations to understand them, it just needs to make sense. You can use that. Having a villain do bad things out of fear, desperation, or anger can be perfectly valid, as these are emotions most of us can relate with pretty well. It's just important to remember that motivation when the redemption comes around. For example, if they do bad things out of fear, what is it that has given them the strength now to overcome that fear and do the right thing? Is it perhaps hope instilled by the hero? Maybe it's the realization that their fear does not justify the damage they've done. Better yet, if your villain's actions are based on fear, then perhaps their redemption can be based on the same principle. The fear of being remembered as a monster, the fear of losing their humanity entirely.
I will not die a monster.
Another interesting way I've seen the villain redemption done is by having the character be exposed to the truth of their deeds. It's quite interesting when you consider a villain who knows they're doing bad things, for whatever reason, against a villain who truly believes they are in the right. Understanding the villain's motives is one thing, but it's especially tragic to have a character who thought they were doing the right thing and were simply wearing the subsequent hate from the heroes as a necessary burden. This is usually how you get that delicious "what have I done" moment. In the same vein, of course, you have the villains who do bad and fail to see the magnitude of it, but more so because they just don't give a shit. The iconic story of Ebenezer Scrooge is almost entirely as straightforward as it gets. It really is just redemption, a Christmas story. Basically, for a villain's redemption to be successful, it has to in some way parallel the reason they turned to villainy in the first place. If it was a lack of love that made them bad, it should be believing that they can be loved that makes them good.
We deserve to be loved. I deserve to be loved! I just want to be loved.
So on, so forth. A particular redemption that resonates with me, and I imagine with every other person on the planet between the age of 15 and 35, is the sacrifice of Severus Snape. I've heard some hot takes about Snape as a character, and sure, it's a very subjective topic, but Come on. I've heard people say that he should not truly be considered a hero despite what he did because he bullied kids and made Harry's life more difficult. All I can think when I hear these things is, wow!
It's almost like he was a flawed character.
It's almost like being savagely bullied most of his life and then balancing himself on the precipice between an evil death cult and a puppeteering headmaster made him bitter. Who knew?
Not me.
Snape was an asshole, of course, but he also did something that almost no other person in the series would have been resilient enough to achieve. He did something that took a very, very strong force of will, a strong force of good will. He played the Dark Lord, my guy. He pranked that fool. Snape was vital in delivering Voldemort that fat L. Severus was a deeply flawed character, but I feel that that made it all the more satisfying when it was revealed that his choices had ultimately been for Harry's benefit. Knowing he was in a lot of ways still a wicked and selfish man made his sacrifice even more exceptional. Why should we feel surprised or impressed by a sacrifice from someone who is revealed to have been a good and kind-hearted person the entire time? That character is just doing what they were programmed to do. Villains, and hell, heroes too, shouldn't be good or bad. There should be shades of grey. And if you think you can do an effective villain redemption without exploring that spectrum, yikes. Am I right, guys? Believing in the good in people, rather than simply equating them with their bad, is the foundation for all villain redemptions, and to be honest is a principle that we need much more of in everyday life. Yeesh. That was hella corny, wasn't it? Look, I'm no guru or anything, but damned if this video doesn't clear your skin and detox your soul, my friends. Yeah, look, I know, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but you think chocolate belongs in the fridge, you're a fucking idiot. That's really all there is to it. Oh, hey guys. So yeah, safe to say, villain redemptions, they get this guy hot under the collar. Too much information? Too bad. Josh Gad. Hey, let me know what you think about villains turned good guys in the comments below, and hey, let me know if you would be interested in a very similar video but on heroes that turned into villains, which ironically is one of my least favorite tropes. Thanks for watching, guys, and a special shout out to all the people out there doing the gross fan art that I mentioned before. You're doing God's work. Catch ya.